Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from FinancialJuneteenth.com, and I'll tell you, I don't know about you, but I have a fascination with MMA fighting because it is difficult. It looks scary to go in that ring,
Mhm.
and I met a brother on Facebook by the name of Owens, Dewan Dirty South Owens, who happens to be an MMA fighter. He's on the come up. He has a lot of energy, and most importantly, he has a lot of intelligence, a lot of great things to say. So I said, let's get on the air and chop it up a little bit, especially since next week he's going to actually have a fight on CBS Sports against a poor guy by the name of Mike Bruno, who obviously doesn't know what he's in for, but it's going to be a great fight. And I want to ask my brother, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm feeling good, man. Thanks for having me on, boys.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to get a chance to talk to you. So, you and I met. We were just chatting on Facebook, and you happened to mention this is what you do, and I found that to be very fascinating. I know that the brothers that I interact with at Ball Sports,
Hmm.
they love MMA fighting, and
Yeah,
it's
familiar
something.
with the site. Love that site.
Yeah, man, and it led me to just this curiosity about the sport itself, your role in the sport, but also you as a person, because you're a very unique young black man in that your fighting doesn't seem to really define everything about who you are, but your fighting is a piece of who you are. But yet
Right,
there's so many
right.
other dimensions to that. So before I dig into that, I want to ask you first and foremost. You're getting ready for this fight against Mike
Hmm.
Bruno. It's going to be on CBS Sports, and you've been training. You've been
Oh
really
yeah.
pushing hard, I assume. First, I want to ask you about your training. What's that like? On a day-to-day basis for somebody who's going out there and doing this sort of thing.
Okay, MMA. I mean, obviously, it's a combat sport, but where it differs from some other sports, most notably boxing, because that's what we're more familiar with. It has a lot of variables. It has grappling aspects, which is basically submissions on the ground and wrestling, striking, but it's not just boxing. Again, we can kick, knee, elbow. There are rules. That's another common misconception. There's no biting, out gouging. No low blows, anything crazy like that. So the training mirrors that. Some days we'll do some grappling, some days we'll do some striking. A lot of times we'll do conditioning because that's very important. Being explosive and muscle endurance. And since it's a little where it differs from boxing, again, use that as an example, is because it's shorter rounds, and there's 3 5-minute rounds, and only time there's more than 3 rounds is if it's a championship bout that's 5 rounds. That being said, the pace is much quicker. You can get tired very fast, and again, it's like constant. The change from striking to grappling, and that can definitely burn you out a little bit. So it's just constantly of like fight simulation. Some days we'll spar 2 days a week. You don't want to spar too much. You want to get your technical training in, but it's basically just breaking up a fight into different pieces, and then some days we put it together and we do full on sparring with bigger gloves, obviously, because the MMA gloves are 4 ounces. So we'll spar with like boxing type gloves, shin guards, and headgear and things like that. So we do
So,
that twice a day for maybe about 3 hours, 2.5 hours a piece.
so how did you end up in this industry? I mean, most people don't wake up and find themselves doing something like this.
Right, right, right.
What's the trajectory? I mean, are you a former athlete, well, you're currently an athlete. I know that, but I mean, did you play other sports? Like, how did this happen?
I didn't honestly. I've never played any organized sport, even in school. I was more of a jokester when I was in school. But I'm a Marine. Well, once a Marine, always a Marine. But I was in the Marine Corps, and I was stationed in Camp Lejeune, and they had a TV show called The Ultimate Fighter, which is basically like a reality-based TV show, and that's what really started the MMA boom. MMA has been around for a while, but it really took off around 2005. So after a hard day's work, myself and my roommates would be sitting in the barracks watching the show, and it kind of went from like, oh, I can do that, like a false bravado type thing to me telling myself, hey, when I get out, I'm gonna check out the gym and I'm gonna try it. So that being said, when I got out, when my contract was up, I did go to the gym, and it wasn't what I thought, but I just stuck with it.
Wow, wow.
Yeah,
So tell me about your first fight. When I know personally, I'm always curious about the emotions that a
yeah,
fighter might feel. When you're going out here and you know how well you've trained,
yeah.
but the other guy, he's been training, maybe just as hard, maybe hard, who knows? And
Right.
And I remember seeing the old videos of Mike Tyson, where he would be crying, like bawling before the
Hmm.
fight, and then go in there and knock the guy out in 40 seconds. So what's going through your head when you're going out there and you're about to take on this opponent?
Well, not just the first fight, the first couple of fights. It's different now. I'll get to that, but initially, I mean, to say it's nerve wracking is an understatement, man. Like you are, I mean, literally, not fear, it's terror, because it's not just losing. You don't want to lose in front of, getting hurt is the least of your worries. It's not about getting hurt. You don't want to, if you're trained, you feel confident in your training, you just don't want to lose. You got your people around you, you've got your loved ones. You're literally, on a big stage, a platform. Everyone's watching. It's not a million other matches going around like going on in some other sports. It's not a team. Well, training and things like that it is, but when you're under the big lights, it's not a team sport, so it's all on you. And the thing that separates combat sports, especially MMA, most of the other sports, is you can say it's a sport, it is a sport, but at the end of the day, it is a fight. So a lot of masculinity is tied into that. A lot of ego is tied into that. You understand what I'm saying? Boys, if you and I play a basketball game, and you beat me at basketball, I mean, I'm competitive, I'm like, oh, damn, got me, I'm going to be pissed. But, in a fight, it is a sport. Particularly, it's like, I got...
It's a fight.
You understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, obviously, it's a lot of variables, with the grappling and, it's not always going to be someone getting hurt. But that's tied into it too, especially initially before I really started putting so much emphasis on the techniques and things like that. After about maybe 3 or 4 fights, you get used to it. I've had over 30 fights, including my amateur fights now. But after a while, it's literally, and I'm serious. It sounds cliche, but it's literally like another day in the office. I train every day, and there's nothing that's going to happen in the fight that I haven't seen before. And on the level I'm fighting at now, I'm trained with other professional athletes, so I know the guys that I'm training with are high caliber fighters. So it's nothing that someone's gonna do that again I don't know how to react to. And it gets to the point where it's just muscle memory. You're just literally going out there and performing. So initially it's tough, but now I don't get nervous at all. I do get maybe I guess you could say like a nervous anticipation, like an excitement. I'm ready to put on the show, but nowhere near the damn near panic attacks I had like earlier. And every fighter has. We laugh about it with the new guys sometimes, but it passes. Now it's just a overwhelming sense of confidence, and some people may say it very well may be cockiness. I mean, once you get to a certain point, you just feel like
well, like you're ready. So,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
so what about but now this fight coming up though with Bruno, that's a little different, right? A little bigger platform,
Yeah.
CBS. I mean, it's obviously the result of your hard work. I mean, you
Oh
won some
yeah.
fights,
Oh yeah.
so that got you on the radar. You mentioned with the USC
Exactly.
folks. Is there a difference in terms of how you go into this fight mentally versus the other days at the office?
No, not for me specifically. With some people fighting on the show, well, first of all, let me say the show is Titan Fighting Championships. It's going to be airing August 22nd. It's going down in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So, guys, make sure you check me out and watch me represent. But it is a bigger show. It's right under UFC. There's a lot of smaller shows, mid-level shows, and Titan is definitely one of the big shows that's not UFC. To anyone, the fans out there, another common misconception: people call MMA UFC. Now, the sport that I do is called mixed martial arts, and for short, it's MMA. The UFC is a league, so the UFC is akin to the NBA. The UFC is the NBA or the NFL of MMA. Okay, so I guess other shows you could consider them like maybe a minor league. So you can make some moves, make a little bit decent money, but when you're not doing it all the way big until in the UFC. So this is a big platform, but I've fought internationally a few times in Peru. I'm just coming off a big win over a UFC vet, and again, I think that really puts you on the radar when you beat a guy who's been in the big show. So, like we were talking about earlier, that doesn't mean you're going to get the call to the UFC immediately, but you are on their radar. So, because they keep track of guys that were in the big show to bring them back if they start doing well. So now that you're on the radar, it's time to show them that wasn't a fluke or something, and just string those wins together. So I'm pumped, and I'm ready to represent.
How often do you fight?
I try to fight every couple of months, because I wanna stay sharp. I like fighting. A lot of guys they fight a couple times a year. They pick their opponents, and that's big, you know. And it's not in some other combat sports. It's a little bit bigger, you know. MMA, you know, we don't do it as much, but you know, still you got guys that you know they pick fights that they know they're gonna lose. I want to fight the tough fights, and I want to beat tough guys. You know, it feels good when you beat someone who you know has the ability to beat you. I mean, there's guys out there that you feel like, listen, I don't care what happens. I'm just better than this guy. But when you beat someone who you know is dangerous, you're researching them, you're watching them on YouTube, and you're like, oh shit, you know, he ain't playing, and you that initial like, damn, and then you beat that guy. That feels good, you know. That feels, you know, it feels real good, you know.
Wow. So you know, it's funny. I always wonder about that too. You know, in terms you talk about people picking their opponents. I mean, I know.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like I know in boxing, which I follow that a little more closely over the years.
Right, right.
You know, I've seen so many cases where it seems that someone would just avoid a certain opponent forever. Like, you know, there were guys that avoided Muhammad Ali before he became, you know, who he was. And you know, and I always wondered about that, just how you go about being able to decide who you're going to fight against, who makes that decision, you know, and just how that works in the background. So when you talk about getting the call for this fight, what's that process like? I mean, who makes the call? Who do they call? How do you make the deal? How does that all go down?
Well, to a certain degree, it's not structured like a normal league would be structured. It's almost like it's like a contractor. That's the best way to explain it. I'm a contractor, and I get contacted to basically fight. And you getting contacted could be predicated off of your fighting style, how good your record is. Are you excited? Do you have an image? Is a show coming to your area where they think they can sell tickets? Like, we have a good fan base. So all these things are tied into it. But they can get in touch with you any way. I mean, it could be something that's simple. I've been contacted from my fan page on Facebook before. A company that sponsors me, K-Side MMA, the manager, the CEO is a good friend of mine. Guys will know, they see me rocking K-Side MMA, they'll get in touch with him like, hey, you know, is that guy fighting? So however they get in touch with you, you know, these days it's easy to get in contact with pretty much anyone. You know what I mean? As long as you're serious about, you know, some business. So yeah, they get in touch with you any way they can, and you know, they basically make you an offer. There's a little bit of negotiating, and you know, you guys see how it works, and then you usually come to agreement. You know, we spoke about it earlier. The money, the way it's set up is like you have what you call your show purse, and you have your win bonus. So the first amount of money is literally what you get paid to show up and fight. So win, lose, or draw, as long as you make weight, because we do have weigh-ins, you have to have different weight classes. You have to make weight, or they can take a percentage of your purse. So we definitely, you know, you got to put the honey buns down for a second. So once you fight, you already allotted that certain amount. That money's guaranteed. You win, and now that's sometimes, most of the time, literally twice as much money. So that's how that works. Sometimes, you know, there's stipulations where you can have a situation where someone says, I want a flat purse. Like, I want this amount of G's flat, win, lose, or draw. That happens sometimes too. But the standard model is your show purse and your win purse.
So we talk about you know, this amount of G's. You know, how many G's we talking about? I mean, how much? You know, what's kind of standard money in the level that you were
Right.
in before this CBS?
Right. Right. Okay. Well, I've been on a level of fighting at, you know, higher caliber shows for a little while now, so it's been okay. But starting out, fighters is not good. You know, most of the time, fighters have full-time jobs, and again, that's going to change too when you want to reach that next level, because again, the caliber competition you're fighting is much higher. But starting out, it may be hundreds to show and hundreds to win. It can be you know, 500 to show, 500 to win. So that's 1,000 in a night. But again, you're still paying, you know, gym fees and medical, I mean, managers, tons of things like that. So guys really aren't raking it in. So it's a grind initially. As you get better, you get your notoriety up, you get your skills tight, you fight higher caliber opponents, and you beat them, the money goes up. Maybe it'll be 1,000 to show, 1,000 to win, 2,000 to show, 2,000 to win, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7,000 to show, 7,000 to win. It doesn't really get much higher than that type of money until you get to the UFC. There are some shows, especially if a guy's a UFC veteran and he's headlining, then you'll have guys making real good money, 10,000 to show, 10,000 to win, 20,000. That's a huge purse for outside the UFC. But that's like guys later in their career. Once you're in the UFC, now we're talking some serious money. Like your first fight, you know, your first fight in the UFC, these starting guys off at like 9 and 9. So that's 18 G's in a night. You can do some things with that. You win and it goes up. It just keeps going up. When you've been in there for a year or two, you racked up a decent amount of wins. You got guys making 60 G's to show, 60 G's to win, 70, 70, 80. And again, that's not including sponsors. They have performance incentives like fight of the night, which is like the best fight of the night, submission of the night, and knockout of the night. And those are also separate bonuses that are usually like anywhere from 50 to 60, $70,000, not including your normal purse. So again, when you get to the UFC, you can do some things, and those bonuses are just incentives for guys to basically fight the way you want to see people fight. A lot of times guys, and I don't want to fault them because the stakes are high. A lot of guys are not fighting to win; they're fighting not to lose. But you got other guys, like myself. I pride myself on putting on a show. I want to fight the way I want to see people fight. That being said, winning is priority. So it's a balance sometimes, and it's really tough. In MMA specifically, obviously we have the grappling aspect, so that's huge when it comes to how you want to fight, because submissions are cool, but a lot of times you have guys who their style is just based on holding you and basically stopping you from whooping their ass. So and so it's boring. So for the ignorant fan, a lot of us, especially people that we haven't been exposed to this. I mean, let's be honest. Like black people, we don't have a lot of jiu-jitsu schools around. And I mean that stuff costs money, hundreds of dollars a month. A lot of our schools, no school I went to had a wrestling program. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of programs like that are based off of how much money is brought into that school system. You see what I'm saying? A lot of our schools, they're going to have a basketball team that's relatively cheap, but you're not going to see a lot of swim teams. You're not going to see rugby and water polo and things that are things are a little bit more expensive sometimes. So when you have people that have been wrestling since they were a kid and things like that, it's a little bit tougher if you get into it later, because the grappling is a little bit easier. I mean, it's a little bit harder to pick up because some things that you're supposed to do is totally alien to what your natural instincts would be. I remember watching it as a fan before I ever trained, and it's like, well, why doesn't he just get up? Why doesn't he? Why is he holding him? Nobody wouldn't hold me like that. And this is ignorance. I didn't understand. I never felt that until I went to the gym. And again, I remember the first time I trained, I was about 180 pounds. There's a guy 120 pounds, and he's just slamming me, choking me, twisting. And I literally could not understand it. And there's nothing that anyone can tell you that will explain it until you feel it. So getting into the sport late, I had to get better at a faster rate, and it paid off. So
wow. Well, that's great information, man. I'll tell you this. This is I'm one of those armchair quarterbacks when it comes to people really doing the stuff that I wish I could do.
yeah,
But so I could probably go buy an Xbox game and pretend to be an MMA fighter, but I can't do it in real life, man. But you know what? I do have one bullshit story to tell that has to do with my very brief experience as a fighter. But it wasn't MMA, it wasn't boxing, it was karate.
Okay.
I used to do this style. I think it was called Goshin Jitsu, and I don't think I was that bad. I did it from maybe the age of 10 to about 12, and I had a lot of trophies. So I guess if trophies aren't indicated that you can whoop somebody's ass, then I had that. And these weren't little tournaments. I would go to big tournaments and I'd actually get first place, stuff like that. But I remember one time, and this is going to lead to a question. This is just old man's reflections. But I remember one time I had to fight in this tournament, and the tournament was being hosted by my karate teacher's teacher. And his son was in the tournament, and his son was the same age as me. And I'll never forget, I was terrified to fight this dude. Because you're talking about 11-year-old kid logic.
This
first
is
of
the
all,
master's son. Yeah, he's been training with him. Yeah, trust me.
Right. I'm like, he's the son of my teacher's teacher. And then I just turned 11. I was fighting against the 12-year-olds who seemed like giants at the time.
Right.
And I remember, I fought him, and when I fought, I remember the crowd was totally against me. Everybody was cheering for him because his dad was holding the tournament. There was a lot of people. I'm talking about hundreds of people there. And I had one person cheering for me. There was a white lady. Her name was Cindy. She was one of my teachers. And I remember The way they did it was you would vote whenever there's a blow thrown, they would stop the fight, and the judges would vote as to whether or not a point was scored.
So
Right?
it was a point style, or it was point contact. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. So we went to three, and it was 2-2. And so I'm up here, I'm doing my little special moves, my roundhouses, my all the little moves my teacher had
Yeah,
taught me. And then finally, I saw an opening, and I mean, I laid a punch to this dude's chest that was like
mhm,
thunder. I mean, it was so loud. It was like it echoed through the building. So when the judges voted, there was no question who won this fight. I mean,
right,
it was
right.
probably it was probably my proudest moment as a 11-year-old fighter, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But here's the funny thing. So afterward, so of course I beat the dude, I won or whatever, and and he was kind of a special kid. He thought he could beat anybody. And I remember that night, he picked a fight with me. When we were over at his dad's house, he
right,
wanted to fight me,
right.
and I don't know if it was a jealousy thing or I can't stand you
Of
thing
course,
type thing or
you were getting
whatever.
time.
And I think about that animosity that had really been there since
Right.
I laid that thunderbolt to his chest, which I was very proud of. And I wonder if the same thing happens at your level when you're talking about real professionals. When you guys leave that ring, I mean, when you're done fighting, how do you feel about the dude you just fought? I mean, do you hate his guts? Do you want to fight him some more? If he won or if you won, does that change how you feel, or is it just straight professional, like good
No,
fight,
no,
man?
no.
How does that go?
It's honestly it's the opposite because there are not a lot of people who are professional fighters. So you're already a part of an obscure group. So it's a brotherhood. So you feel a sense, and not only that, you feel a sense of closeness with someone. At least a respect, and the respect is gonna that's huge. Respect is huge. After you go to war with someone, you know what I mean. You go toe to toe and things like that. That being said, obviously individuals, when it comes to like specific people, that's what's going to depend on how they feel about each other. Like I've fought guys I've trained with before, I've been cool with, not teammates, but I've trained with. I fought guys that I couldn't stand. I fought guys that I had really no feelings good or bad about it. It didn't really make a difference. But after the fight, it's pretty much I've trained with a lot of guys that I fought after the fight. You know what I mean? There's only a few people that I didn't like that I fought, but that didn't have anything to do with it because I was fighting them. I just didn't like something about them. Sometimes you see guys, you're looking at footage of a guy because obviously, we got to research him, and then you'll see him knock a guy out, and then I've seen guys stand over someone's knocked out body and do, crazy gestures, and yeah, shit like that. So, something like that would make me really not, want to not deal with somebody, be cool with them. But and then don't get it twisted. I'm a cocky guy. I talk. I talk a lot of shit in interviews, but it's not just I mean it. I mean the stuff I say. I'm just telling the truth. A lot of times I can't stand when guys give these these PC cookie cutter answers like, oh, he's my my toughest opponent today. Like, no, listen, I'm coming out there to whoop ass and represent for my family and get this money and move one step closer to the ultimate goal. But no, I've never had I don't think at all that is similar. I think if it is like that, and it just depends on these two guys just clashing, or sometimes the lead up to the fight, the build up, it can take it can have a mind of its own, and then maybe someone crosses the line a little bit, talking about personal things, and then you're not gonna forgive somebody, and that does happen a lot. But I don't think that's because of the fighting. I think it's because in the build up to the fight, one guy may have said something that the other guy just think is unforgivable, and it grows from there. And the one guy doesn't want to be the one to back down. So
The guy you're gonna fight next week, Mike Bruno, you know him?
oh no, yeah,
You like him? Are y'all cool?
I don't know him, but he's not the type of guy I would hang out with. He seems like a meathead. I watch some of his interviews. He's one thing I want to say. I can physically he's a beast. You know what I mean? He looks big, strong. But a lot of times, my experience showed me the guys that spend more time lifting weights than training. I mean, strength matters, all these other intangibles matters, but at the end of the day, skill is the most important. You know what I mean? And I got my own advantages too. Cardio, heart, things like that. I know it'll overcome his advantages, but nah, he's definitely when I think of the stereotypical fighter, you know what I mean. He's who I think about. The guy, walking around like, oh, I'm a pro MMA fighter and flexing and all that. 'Cause we're all not like that. Most of us not like that, but You know, I get that vibe from him. You know, no diss to him, but I mean, yeah, maybe a little bit of diss, but yeah, that's the vibe.
Well, you know, I looked him up here, and I see what you mean. Yeah, he definitely he's muscularly built, and
Yeah, yeah,
he does seem to have this very interesting kind of bravado about him.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I'll be happy to see you whoop his ass. Now, let me ask you this, man. I want to
yeah,
ask you about this will be my last couple questions here, but
yeah, yeah, no problem,
you
no
know,
problem.
I want to ask about that line between skill, professionalism, and showmanship.
Hmm.
I think when I think about the sport you're in, I think most recently about guys like Kimbo Slice, and
Yeah, yeah,
and again, this is me really talking more as an outsider here, but
yeah, yeah.
my perception was that there was a huge fascination with him because he was this big physical specimen. He did these YouTube videos, these street
Let's, let's,
fights, where
let's,
he's knocking
let's,
out all
let's
these dudes.
let's not be PC, boys. Go ahead and say it. He was a big black scary man, and it was intriguing to people. You know.
Well, yeah, and everybody, I mean, black people and white people seem
Oh
to
yeah,
love him. But
he
I ain't
had
gonna
that.
lie. I mean, my perception though, it seemed like when he got in there in the ring with real fighters, he got his ass kicked. I
He
mean,
did.
am I right about that?
He did, and that was another common misconception. Uh, First of all, props to Kimbo because he did what a prize fighter is supposed to do. You get into the sport, you make as much money as you can, and you take care of your people. That's what he did. He made a lot more. Not that it's all about money. Don't get it twisted. But he made a lot more money than a lot of people who are far, far more skilled than him. And he did it, you know, relatively quickly. Now, you know, his rise to fame came from a lot of YouTube videos, and he, you know, again, he looks scary. Let's be honest. You know,
Right.
I'm a grown man, but like, you know, but he was fighting unskilled guys. You know, these weren't professional fighters. And as with anything, when you're competing against someone who's not good, you can look great. You know what I mean? But when you're great, you make people that are good look bad. You see what I'm saying? So when the UFC and other leagues, because of that notoriety and fame, which is going to translate to viewers, because let's be honest, this is a business. You know what I mean? They gave him a chance to come into the UFC on on the Ultimate Fighter show, and you know, he represented himself well. I mean, he didn't come from a grappling background, and ultimately that was his demise. As I said earlier, there's a lot of intricacies and little nuances to grappling. It's not something you're going to learn overnight. It's very tough. It's tough. You know what I mean? Striking, even if you're not technical, everybody understands if I hit this person, it's going to hurt him. Everybody understands that. But grappling is just completely different. It's a system of it's pretty complex, and it's a big part of MMA. It's a huge part. I would say the grappling is about 70% MMA because even if you see two guys striking, they're striking based off of what they want to do. Like maybe this guy wants to go for a takedown, so I just can't charge in and throw strikes because he's going to come under me and go for the takedown. So maybe I got to keep him at the end of my jab. So there's a lot of things going on that you know, to the untrained eye, guys may not see. You know, a lot of times I hear guys say, "Oh, the level of MMA and the other striking MMA is terrible." Like, oh, well, one, these guys got to train a lot of different things. And not only that, if you go in there with a boxer stance and you're kind of got this 3D stance, then you're going to get your legs kicked out. You're going to get taken down. So there's a lot of things going on. But back, not to get too off topic, but back to Kimbo. I think he did as good as could be expected for someone his age. But also Kimbo, even though he was a physical specimen, Kimbo was his mid or early 40s when he got into MMA. And you know, he won a decent amount of MMA fights, but when he got to the highest level, which is again the UFC, this is the NBA of MMA we're talking about. We can't expect this guy to come in there and really beat anybody, you know. So you know, I think he did his thing. He came in, he made again a lot of money. I just saw there's an event in West Virginia, and he's getting paid to come out and just talk on the mic, and that's what I'm talking about. That's what you're supposed to do. He came in, he did the best he could do, and now he's getting paid just to go to events and say, "Hey, I'm Kimbo Slice, sign an autograph." Jeez, just to go there. You know, he's getting flown out there. He's gonna get, you know, free food and stuff like that, and get money. That's what he's supposed to do. But so I didn't expect much of him when he got in MMA. You know what I mean? So the only people that may have been surprised may have been people that weren't into MMA. But so that's the whole, you know, that's my spiel on the whole the Kimbo thing.
You know, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at his career, and I agree with you. I mean, I guess I shouldn't have been so mean to say that he got his ass kicked, but I mean,
Yeah.
it really, I'll tell you, it really taught me a lot about just, the fact that we cannot forget that there is so much skill involved. There's so much training involved. People really think, and in fact, it reminds me of something else you can feel free to comment on. It
Mhm.
reminds me of when the internet blew up over this whole story about T.I., the rapper, swinging on Floyd Mayweather.
Oh my
And
goodness.
of course, to the rational mind, most people would say, okay, that ain't gonna end well for T.I. but I kid you not, there were literally people who said, well, you don't know T.I. He knows how to street fight. I'm like, it's not even on the same level. Are, are you
I
are
gotta, I
you
gotta pull
serious
it.
right now?
Come on, man. It's
you know,
all right,
but
two things.
oh, go
That
ahead,
was crazy. That was crazy. I almost said Scott. He's riding for his woman, so much respect. But Mayweather could have just decapitated him, but he was smarter than that. But one thing I want to say on that note, a lot of times, I've heard people say, talk about MMA fighters like, oh well, they wouldn't do this in a street fight because in a street fight there's no rules. And it's like, what makes you think this professional fighter is gonna follow rules in a damn street fight? Now it's just a trained professional athlete, a professional fighter who doesn't have rules, and it's so like it's and I don't want to say this in a condescending way, but it's laughable. The difference between a professional fighter and someone who just is. Matter of fact, let me put it like this. All right, you had your PhD in finance, right?
right.
Someone like myself or most people who don't, what do we look like coming in debating you on anything that has something to do with finance or something like that? No one's gonna go to a doctor and not be a doctor and argue with them about how to do a certain procedure. No one's gonna, you're not gonna, if you don't know anything about cars, you're not gonna go get into it with your mechanic about. I mean, so it's the same thing, and people don't understand that fighting is a skill. It is a skill. Everything that you is natural to you is almost wrong when it comes to a fight against a skilled opponent. You see guys out here fighting and they're tired, well, we call it gassing out, but they're tired in 20 seconds. 20 seconds. You're talking about Mayweather. This guy goes rounds with the best in the world and makes them look like children. Are you serious? You know what I mean? T.I. couldn't run around the damn block without huffing and puffing. Mayweather knows how to roll with punches. This is if he gets hit. Let's be honest like that. Matter of fact, I remember the first time I really got hit, just square in the nose. And it was just like, I had been in fights before. I had done, but I had never been hit by someone who knew what they were doing. And it was a shock. It was, oh, damn. It was like, it's real. That was crazy. I'm just going to leave it at that. That was crazy. Anybody who thinks that T.I. could have done anything to Mayweather without a weapon is sadly mistaken. Sadly mistaken.
Well, you
Talking
know
about
what?
the still boxer on the planet.
Yeah.
Now he's a man, he's a mammal, so of course he can get knocked out. Anyone, if he gets snuck or something like that, or the fluke 1 in a million chance, but it's just not likely. So yeah, guys, take it. Trust me.
Well, love
It
makes us do crazy things.
yeah, it could have been bad for him.
Yeah, you got to respect it, right? I mean, you love your woman enough to,
Yeah, respect.
like you said, ride for your woman, but it's also
Hey,
it could be ride and die for your woman too, right? So
literally.
don't go swing on Mayweather. Just
Yeah,
handle it a different way. But hey man, I'm gonna let you get back to the stuff you got to do because I know you got to train for this fight, and I want everybody to make sure you go out and support this brother. Dewan, his name's Dewan Owens. Nickname is Dirty South.
Yeah, no,
He's fighting
hey.
this week against Mike Bruno on CBS Sports. And what's the name of the event again?
Let me give you some little promo and some shout outs real quick.
Please.
It's Titan Fighting Championships, and it's going down in Fayetteville, North Carolina, August 22nd. It's going to be aired on CBS Sports and also CBS.com. So if you can't get to a television, get to a computer. And again, it's going to be live. It's a big event. We got some UFC events, UFC vets, main event, and it's going to be a live show. I want to give a big fat shout out to K-Side MMA. Check them out to all your MMA gear and apparel. Shout out to Toro BJJ. They hooked me up with this shirt, this gift. Let me check out. Yeah, check them out. Shout out to my homies at MMA Institute, Triangle Jiu-Jitsu. This is my training partners, all my friends, family, everybody supporting me, riding with me. I appreciate the support. And anybody else who ever wanted to get involved in MMA, listen, you go to your local MMA gym. These are let me say this real quick. These skills are not just something to be used in the cage. Knowing how to defend yourself is something that not only can you keep forever. You will never forget this. You know what I mean? You can give to someone, you can teach to someone, you can teach to your children. You know what I mean? MMA. So if we think about this from a self-defense perspective, take some jiu-jitsu classes, check it out, go to a local MMA gym and just get into shape. You know, a lot of times from a cultural standpoint, let's be honest. You guys know we got bad eating habits. You know, we got a lot of these traditions passed on from generation to generation. We're more prone to high blood pressure and a lot of these things. Let's get out. Let's be physical and make it fun. You know, this is what I do, and I hate running. You know, so but if I make it fun, if I'm training, it's different. So let's just I see a lot of times people are because our metabolisms are different. A lot of time men and women, women are gaining a little more weight even though they're eating the same thing as their men. Men get out there with them and do some things. Let's be smart about our health. Let's not wait till a doctor makes us, live a certain way and stop them because you'll do it then. So don't wait, So just get into MMA, check it out, and support the fighters out there. They're doing their thing. So I want to first of all lastly a big shout out to Dr. Boyce Watkins. I know he's going to share this on his thing, but for my MMA fans that are not familiar with him, listen, this man is doing his thing. I've been following him for a while. He interviewed the Minister Louis Farrakhan recently interviewed Russell Simmons, and now he's interviewing your boy. So yeah, that is. Let me stop. But seriously though, check him out. FinancialJuneteenth.com, YourBlackWorld.com. He's doing wonderful things for the Black community, helping us get our economics tight. And much love and respect to this brother. Again, I always speak well of you. I send your links to FinancialJuneteenth.com to my friends all the time. So guys, get familiar. Check them out.
Right, well, I appreciate that, man. Brothers supporting brothers, and that's really how we all gonna get ahead,
We have,
man.
And
I definitely want to support you in every way I can, man. And I'm very impressed with everything that you've said on and off camera. And that's what I want people to understand. That the reason that I wanted to speak to you was not just because you are an extraordinary athlete, but because you're an extraordinary human being. That same energy, that same power, swag that he has in his language and speaking about everything. He applies it to everything he does in life, and that's what I think we need more of in our community. So everybody, please check him out. Follow this guy, give him your support. He's definitely one of us. So everybody, this is Mr. Dewan Owens, Dirty South. That's his nickname. He's gonna be fighting Mike Bruno on CBS Sports on the Titan Fighting Championships down in Durham, North Carolina?
Oh, I'm in Durham and I'm training in VA, but it's going to be in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Fayetteville, okay.
Again, if you guys can make it. If not, again, check us out on CBS. We're representing all day. Like Boy said, look, I like my fighting style is a representation of the way I'm in life. I'm out there throwing things. I'm not stalling. I'm not playing. I'm out there to put on a show. So check us out.
All right. Well, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And thank you all for checking us out. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from FinancialJuneteenth.com. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.